Thanks for coming. This is a great turnout. I did not expect this. This is exciting. Can everybody see fine? Everything's okay? All right, well, I am Dr. Addi. I'm a physical therapist here at Empower. This is Matt Reeves. He is my student for the summer. He is a doctor of physical therapy student at Wichita State. So if you've been in here lately, you'll see a lot of Matt, more so of him than me. So, and then I have Dr. Connor in the back. She's just kind of here to help out and help with us. But welcome to the talk, Goodbye Osteoporosis. This is how we get kind of a plan to say so long to that diagnosis of osteopenia, osteoporosis, or if you have normal bone, to help keep away from that diagnosis. Okay, so this is kind of the roadmap for the day of going over what osteoporosis is and osteopenia, what kind of makes up strong bones, what makes up weak bones, and then why you're here. What can you do about it? What the heck can I do about this diagnosis? Can I get rid of it? Can I reverse this? Those are all things that we will address. So first off, raise your hand if you've had a diagnosis of osteopenia. Okay, good amount of people. Okay, what about osteoporosis? That's not me. Osteoporosis, okay. Do you mind me asking what areas? Do you know which areas are affected?
Who, me?
Yes.
I have, I think it's osteoporosis in a hip or a thigh. I have it on my phone, I could look at it. But,
very good.
So it's one of the larger bones.
Okay.
And then something in my arm.
And those are the most common. Okay,
Yeah.
very good. And then who's here with just normal, healthy bones, just wanting to learn a little bit? All right, very good. You're just tagging along with the wife. That's great. All right. All right, so there will be a little bit for everybody to learn here. Hopefully we give you some good tools that you can go away from and be more well equipped. So first off, bone mineral density is how we kind of figure out if you have osteoporosis or osteopenia. The way we come up with these numbers, the best way is a DEXA scan. And so the kind of milestones throughout your aging life is once you get a 65 birthday, you go to the doctor's office and they say, okay, it's time to start all the blood tests and the DEXA and things of the sort. So who all has had a DEXA scan? All right, that's excellent. So they're really simple. You lay down on the plinth and it scans your body. And it looks like a lot of really cool things, but what it'll shoot out is a T-score. And so what that T-score shows you is how porous your bone is. Essentially what it says is how, if you're laying down enough bone as fast as you're breaking it down, is what it gives you. So the way they come up with the T-score is they compare your bones with the same gender but younger. And so they get that norm off of younger people. So they get an idea of what normal bone looks like, and then they compare your bones to that, and that's where it shoots out the T-score. So normal bone, you'll have a T-score of greater than -1. So it'll be a -0.9 and then on up to 0 or whatever it may be. Now you get the diagnosis of osteopenia if you are a -1 to -2.5, and then greater than -2.5 labels you osteoporotic. Now, these are very good at finding these different areas, and so they'll give you areas like, the most common are the wrists, the low back, and then the neck of the femur. Those are the most common areas, all right? You may have other areas, but those are the main areas that people typically have a diagnosis with. So these are the best thing to find out where your osteoporosis or osteopenia is, and then if you have it, all right? So we get that diagnosis and we automatically think, okay, my bone is no longer normal. It's more like this fragile osteoporotic bone, and it's terrifying. That's why I'm doing this talk. I have people come up to me all the time with this diagnosis, and for one, they think they have to live with it. They can't do anything about it. And then secondly, they don't know what it means sometimes. And so what we know it means is don't fall. If you fall, you're gonna break some bones, okay? So we have to create healthy, stronger bones so that we can fall, like I did the other day, busting my butt on a box jump, and I was fine, I was okay, because I have normal, healthy bone. And so, in order to interrupt this process of keeping away from a fracture, we have to develop more normal, healthy bones and that's why we're doing this. That's why we're trying to create a stop to the weakening of the bone and leading to the fracture. Okay, so that is the why as to helping prevent a fracture. All right. So bones bones go through a process of breaking down and building. So we have to make sure that we have all the things that we can to create healthy bone. Okay. So calcium is the first one. Okay. Calcium they are the building blocks to the bone. All right. The second one is vitamin D. The reason why is if you do not have vitamin D, the body can't use the calcium. Okay, so if you take a bunch of calcium but you're not getting enough vitamin D, then your body will not be able to use that and lay down bone. That's why most calcium supplements come with vitamin D. That's why most of those bottles have that calcium and vitamin D supplement. All right. Thirdly is estrogen. That's why a lot of postmenopausal women will have an increase in osteoporosis or osteopenia onset, because once your estrogen output lessens, then we have more of an onset of decreasing that bone mineral density. And lastly is stress. Not necessarily emotional stress, but physical stress to the bone, okay? So the definition I would want you guys to remember from this talk is a definition from Wolff's Law. All that Wolff's Law states is bones adapt and change to the stress that they are subject to. So if you load a bone, it will rise to the occasion. It will rise to laying down more bone to be able to adapt to that stress. That's all that means, okay? Any questions on building blocks or anything of the sort? So those are the main ones that we want to pay attention to. So if you go through a blood test, and your doctor will have a really good idea about this. That's why talking to their doctor is really good. And so if they notice a dip in any of these, that's why they will recommend a supplement of sorts. So we've covered what osteoporosis and osteopenia is. Now what the heck can you do about it? So first one is talk to your doctor. Second is food before pills. And then thirdly is exercise. So talk with your doc. They do the DEXA scan, they do the blood test, they do those screenings. Sometimes they'll recommend a osteoporosis med. Is anybody on medication right now? Do you mind if I ask what you're on for osteoporosis? Do you remember?
I have been on Fosamax. That didn't work, so I went on another one that didn't work, and now I'm on Prolia.
Very good. Okay. So all of these meds, and it's pretty common. Those are some very common meds there.
Fosamax worked for 5 years, and then it was like it just quit.
And that's what the research shows. And so after about 5 years, that's when we notice these medications starting to no longer work. And so just know that it's a short-term kind of fix. It's a short-term sort of strategy to help fight this osteoporosis and get rid of it. So that's why the second thing I want to talk about is food. Okay, so calcium, you can find it in a lot of things. Dairy is what we all know of, right? Drink milk, those commercials. Dairy is extremely perfect it's perfect for calcium. All your cheeses and yogurts. Vitamin D, your big leafy greens, that romaine lettuce, the broccoli, the legumes. Salmon and tuna actually have some good vitamin D in them as well. And then for vitamin C, your citrusy fruits, your bananas, peppers, and tomatoes. And so when it comes to trying to get good building blocks for your bones, just eat more fruits, eat more veggies, and get enough dairy if you can, okay? And then thirdly, exercise. That's what we kind of specialize in. We specialize in loading those bones appropriately. And so that's what we're going to spend a good majority of this talk on now, okay? So exercise exposes your bones to stress that tells your body to build more and to rise to the occasion, okay? But that's also, you may have the question, I walk 30 minutes every morning, or I exercise. Well, not all exercise is created the same. Not all exercise loads the bones as they deserve to be loaded. So specificity is also a thing that I want to talk about later on once we get into this. But say if you have osteoporosis in your wrists, walking 30 minutes a day isn't necessarily going to do anything for your wrists. We need to do something to load the wrists, okay? So let's look over some of the exercises that they gave in this study. So what they looked at is ground reaction force here. And so they took a bunch of different exercises and they looked at ground reaction force. And you guys want to stand up and try these?
Yeah.
Let's try it. Okay, let's stand up, let's try them. So first for the lunge, all you're gonna do is step forward and take your back knee down just a little bit. That's a lunge, okay? You can go as far down as you like, but that's as simple as a lunge, okay? You step forward and bring your back knee down. Walking, we just walk in place, just small steps. Marching, march a little higher. Now, it was 1.5 reaction force on the stance leg, on this leg that is standing, okay? Running, 2.6 on the leg that is landing, okay? Step-ups, 12-inch step-up was actually 2.7. So 12-inch step-up's pretty tall. Normal steps in the house are about 7 to, anywhere from 6 to 8, okay? But 7's pretty average. Jumping takeoff, so jumping, landing, okay, that's 3.5. A heel drop, all you do is go up on your toes and you drop down on your heels. That was 3.6. A jump squat, so jumping, squatting down. That was 3.8. A foot stomp, so stomping on that foot, 4.6. A vertical jump, so just jumping as high as you can, 4.7. And then a vertical squat jump, so you squat down and then jump, 7.1. Reaction force through the bones. Okay, you guys can have the seat. So you can see here through, if we're just walking, all the exercise we do is walking, that's 1.2. It's not quite enough force to create a difference. And so they put this to the test. There was a really cool study that came out, and it took postmenopausal women, all with the diagnosis of at least osteopenia, so a -1 at least, okay? All postmenopausal women, they divided up in 2 groups. One group did kind of sit and get fit exercises because with an osteopenia diagnosis, we don't want to fall, we don't want to endanger the bone. And so you're doing kind of sitting TheraBand type exercises. Very low load, but you're trying to strengthen up, okay? The other group, it was really cool. They did 4 different lifts. They did a military press where you take a bar, and you press it above your head. They did a back squat where you take the bar back and then you squat all the way down and back up. They did a deadlift, so that's where you take a bar and you lift it up from the ground and place it back down. And they also did a really cool thing where it was a pull-up, it was jumping pull-up. And so they went up to a pull-up bar, they jumped, and the emphasis was not on the pull-up, but on the landing, trying to land as hard as they could. So they would jump, pull up, land. And what they found in this, so what they did was they took this study out for 8 months. So this study, they did these exercises, I think it was 2 times a week for 8 months. And they had those 2 different groups, sit and get fit, and those 4 lifts, 2 times a week for 8 months. And what they found was actually really, really cool. So what you're seeing here, on this left side at the top, you have the light gray group is your sit and get fit type. The dark gray group is the 4 barbell exercise group. And so what this first one is looking at is lumbar spine % change in bone health, okay? And what they saw was a 3% increase in bone density and a 1% decrease in bone density in the sit and get fit group. So that's it. For an 8-month stint on doing these exercises, that's a huge change. A -1 on bone health is actually relatively normal if we're not doing a whole lot. That's pretty good. They're probably just staving off some deep decline. But the 3% increase in bone density is awesome. That's huge. And so that was looking at the lumbar spine. And then they also looked at the neck of the femur, where you also talked about. So the light gray group, they had a 2% decrease. And then the other group, they kind of remained the same. They maybe went up a little bit, like a 0.2 on their bone density. Really cool. So The other thing they looked at was lower extremity strength or leg strength, and then back extensor strength. Back extensors are what kind of stabilize the lumbar spine. The stronger your back extensors are, the more apt you are to stay away from low back pain, and you can tolerate any sort of lifting without back pain. Okay, so the lower extremity strength, in the sit and get fit group, they actually increased 10% on their strength, but the barbell group, they increased almost 40%. That's awesome. And then the back extensor strength, again, the sit and fit group, they got a 12% increase in their strength, but again, a 42% increase or almost 45% increase in strength for their back extensors, primarily because they're probably deadlifting. Okay, but that's really cool. So the type of exercise we are doing makes a difference on our bone health. So some key things when we're trying to consider exercise on what you're going to be doing is specificity. Like I said, you want to be specific to where your areas are. So if you have osteopenia, osteoporosis in your wrist, you want to be loading the wrist somehow. If you have it in your low back, you want to be loading the low back. Those heel drops or deadlifts, those are great for loading the low back. The neck of the femurs, those squat jumps, those are also excellent, as well as step ups. Okay? Progressive, it needs to be progressive. So if you keep it the same weight the whole time, you're probably going to plateau. We're not going to do a whole lot of good. Okay, so that's why a lot of us physical therapists, we ask you if you want a heavier weight, we want to increase that weight a little bit. It needs to be progressive. We need to slowly load those bones more and more, or else we're not going to move the needle as much. Okay, reversibility, that's why you're here. We can change what's going on. We don't have to live with that diagnosis of osteopenia or osteoporosis. We can reverse that. You can reverse that diagnosis of osteoporosis back to osteopenia. It's more rare to get that osteoporosis reversed all the way back to normal, but you can at least get it more stable to osteopenia. And then you can get that osteopenia diagnosis all the way back to normal just as well. The initial values do matter though. So the worse off your bones are, the more change you're going to see. And so the less your T-score is at like a negative 2.5 or negative 2.7, the quicker it's going to change into that osteopenia than it is going to be if you have osteopenia and you try to get back to normal. It's going to be easier for someone with severe osteoporosis to get back than it is with someone with osteoporosis or osteopenia. So that's why we have to not be so afraid of loading these bones that are osteoporotic. We need to create some sort of change, and it is safe to do so. And so the other thing to remember is there are diminishing returns. So think of it like a bell curve, or I'm going to go this way so you can see. So the older we get, we're going to hit a plateau where that's the strongest our bones are going to be, and then the more birthdays we have, they're probably going to slowly get weaker. But as we keep exercising, we can not let that, it will help that not go as steep down as it is. We can flatten it out a little bit as it's going. Does that make sense? Okay, so we want, especially for younger people, we want to get our bones as strong as we can before we hit the age of 80 so that we have as many years as we can with strong bones. All right? So, with exercise, it needs to be, there's different kinds we can do. The first one is progressive resistance training. It's just weights training. That's the most common thing you'll see at the Y or in here. We're using a lot of weights and we're doing very basic, slow exercises, all right? So I actually have a video here. Let's see her doing some progressive resistance training. This is actually a pretty cool video that they put together. They put together lifts that you're doing in the clinic and then comparing it to real life. And this is a dadgum ad. Yeah. So she's doing some farmer's carries here, carrying in the groceries. Doing a burpee, getting onto the floor. Okay, very good. And then We can also do high velocity power training. These are more of the complex type things, but they're pretty easy to do. A very basic one would be, a dumbbell snatch. And she's gonna show us here what this is. Oh, we got some thrusters here, sorry. So you're squatting down and throwing the weight above your head as best you can. Okay. He's doing dumbbell snatches. So what he's going to do is he's going to pick the bar up, or the dumbbell from the floor, and throw it above his head, and then switch hands and throw it above his head. So this is really working his back extensors as he does them. It's also working the shoulders and the wrists. But those are dumbbell snatches. Good. I can skip the next one. And then weight bearing impact training. So that would be more of your, if we're doing bear crawls, things of the sort, where you're bearing weight through the extremities in order to do something. Does all that sort of make sense? Kind of. We just have more videos of these. So, we are going to do a brief workout here. It's a 6-minute, what we call an EMOM, in order to show you guys how you can start off, and this is the handout, you guys have it here as well, of basic things you can start doing in order to start loading your bones, okay? But before we do this, do we have any questions? Any questions you want to ask me? Yes?
Question about jumping.
Yep.
It's just, I don't jump, so what alternatives do you have for people who don't jump?
Yeah, so a good way would be, like I was saying, with the pull-up bar or something of the sort, or if you can take your kitchen counter and you can jump up that way. It's a good way to offload and jump up a little bit. It loads your wrists as you do it. And if you focus on the landing, that's what I want you to focus on, is landing hard. Because that helps with loading the bones appropriately throughout the lumbar spine and out the lower extremities. Does that make sense?
When you land hard, with your knees probably not giving to soften that.
That's a really good question. That's probably best. Yep. That's probably best. It's when you first started out, it'd be good to start soft knees. I wouldn't want you to go hard knees to start. Go soft knees when you land to start, so you can get used to it. See how your body tolerates that after a couple of days with soreness and things of the sort. And if you're really sore, then that's when you come to me and say, what am I doing wrong? But yeah, focus on landing hard and landing loud is what I focus on. But yeah, soften the knees first, and then that's what you're going to get into is more straight knees, so that is transferring up the body. Yep. Yes.
If you have an artificial joint, how hard should you jump, or should you?
You should. We need to be loading it still. There's a misconception out there on like no running, no impact for these joints. A lot of that's to save the joint itself, but it can tolerate. I promise you, you're doing pretty strenuous things on that pretty regularly as well. And so it's going to be able to tolerate it. Again, just kind of feel it out and see. Try it one way for a little bit. Maybe try it for a week. See how your body responds to it. And if it feels like that's too much, then we would need to decrease it quite a bit. But yeah, maybe just try to get off the ground. And don't try to jump really high, but just get off the ground and land hard. That's what I'd try first.
I don't want to go through surgery.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I don't want you to go through surgery again either. Any more questions here on that? Very good. Okay, so we are always here for anything you need. We're always here for questions. My email is at the bottom of my card. And so if you ever have any questions or any more to ask, if you have any thoughts come to mind after this course, then feel free to shoot me an email on more questions, or we have free consults as well. It just takes 20 minutes and we can screen out any questions you have as well there. Okay, so without further ado, I think we will go over how to do these exercises first, and then we will split you up into groups and we'll just go through it. It takes 6 minutes. So an EMOM means every minute on the minute. And so when we start minute 1, we start doing the first exercise for 40 seconds. That's all we do. So the loud jumping and heel raises. Mel, do you mind turning on the light, please? Thank you. So the loud jumping, it's like we talked about. Either you can use a surface and land loud, or you can just start with heel raise and drops. So you're going to go on your heels and drop. So we can just start there if you'd like today. Just starting there. Just drop it onto your heels. Okay? So that's the first station. You'll do that for 40 seconds. And then after 40 seconds, I'll tell you to switch stations. And you'll go to the second station. The wall clap push-ups. You go to a wall. You push up and clap. Okay? We're looking at loading the wrists there. That's the primary purpose there. And then instead of, this says ring pull-ups, what we're going to do is a bent over dumbbell row with that. And so you're going to take, we have dumbbells over here. You can either do 1 dumbbell or you can do 2, depending on how many weights or dumbbells we have. But you just stoop over. What I want to see is a nice neutral spine as you do it, and you focus on squeezing your shoulder blades together. That's the primary focus, is squeezing your shoulder blades together. Okay? Does everybody, if you feel comfortable with doing this, let's do it. Yes?
What area is the ring pull-up best for?
So ring pull-ups, the way they envision those is you're hanging from something, you're leaning, and you're pulling up. So the best way would be like a squat rack like we have over here. So you put the barbell on the squat rack. Connor's going to demo this. This is great. You put the yeah. So you put the barbell on the squat rack, and then you'll hang from probably the inside. That'd be good. You're going to hang from it and just pull up to it. Okay. But not everybody has a squat rack or rings to pull up from. So the area is the wrists as well as the extensions in the back. Okay. But I would actually prefer, instead of that, I would prefer the bent over row like we have on the sheet. I like that one more because it works a lot more of the back extensors for the lumbar spine, and also loads the wrist depending on the weight that you have. But the ones that primarily load the wrists when you're looking at wrists would be the wall push-ups. You can progress and regress those as well. So if the wall feels pretty easy, then you go down to the counter and you do the same thing at the counter that way. Okay? Any other questions on the exercises? Okay.
If you have osteoporosis in the hips, which exercises are going to be best for that? Because like 2 and 3 I can see.
Yes. So let's exit out of here. Let's go to that slide. Matt, do you have any exercises that'll load the neck of the femur?
Yes. Mainly the one that we went over with the heel drop. That's a great one to load the femur as well. I think that's the handout goes over it in detail and gives a pretty good description. But once you get into loading that position, the load is going to travel all the way up. So it's going to hit from the heels all the way up to the low back, and it's not going to stop until it gets to this general region where the spine can then disperse the load. So the heel drop, I love that one for the femur as well. And then also some of the ones we had up here, like the step up is a phenomenal one. So you've got stairs at home, you've got your 8-inch, you can add weight to this, but start out with no weight. Just simply stepping up multiple times, or you can go all the way up the stairs and all the way down the stairs. So that one's a really good. I mean, it increases the load by 2.7, which is a little bit less than the heel drop, but if you can't tolerate the heel drop, then you can do the step up.
Yeah, any sort of jumping will really load the next to the femur and everything up the chain. Okay. Yes?
How many reps do you do to those? And keep it at that 40 seconds.
That's a great question. So basically you try to get as many reps as you can in that 40 seconds. Okay, so you can keep the speed up and have fun with it. If you're rehabbing something, I try to keep in a rehab dosage, and all that means is between 8 and 20 repetitions, and then 3 sets of that. Does that make sense? And so when you're doing 20 repetitions of something, you want it to be really light. So if you hurt your back a while back and you're not quite ready for it, you want to keep it pretty light. Maybe go to that no weight, but you're doing back extensor, like just no weight deadlifts, but 20 repetitions, and see how you tolerate that. And as you increase the weight, then you can slowly decrease the amount of reps you're doing with that. But yeah, when you're doing an EMOM per se, then you want to do as many reps as you can in that 40 seconds and just have fun with it. And maybe just try to set a PR each time. So
I think that these should also be exercises that you're able to fit into your lifestyle. They shouldn't be like a burden to you that you have to do, right? They should do like, you know, for instance, every time you go up your steps, if you've got steps to go into the house or a basement, they should be every time you go to that area, you know you need to do your step-ups. Or, you know, every time you go to wash your hands or something like that, you're able to do your heel drops. Something that you're able to fit into your lifestyle without it being like something that you have to do every single night. You've already done it throughout the day.
thank you. Yeah.
When you have limitations, you know, like for me, I stand at my kitchen counter a lot and do those, you know, exercise right there.
Perfect.
It's amazing, you know.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what we're talking
Yeah.
about. That's perfect.
So it's, like I can't flex this foot with my foot to do the toe push-ups. Is the other one just as beneficial to do that one
Correct.
maybe more
Correct. Yeah.
reps or something?
Yeah, exactly. As long as you can tolerate it. Did you have anything?
Yeah, you can also add resistance. So this is 2.5 or 2.7 times your body weight. But imagine if you're holding a 10 pound or a 15 pound weight, it's going to increase that number more. So you can always add weight to increase the intensity.
Because I could do the step-ups, I just can't do the
Yeah.
toe push-up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you could always do it. You could always like do it on one side. So you go up and then you land on that one leg. You go up and you land on that one leg.
What he means is like maybe stepping up on a step, dropping
Yeah.
down onto that foot. That'd be a really good way to do it as well. Any other questions? Okay, if anything comes up as we're doing this workout, feel free to ask me. But I want to number you off and we'll do different stations. So the station 1 that's going to be doing the heel drops, get out of this. You'll be in this area. Station 2 that'll be doing the wall push-ups and claps. Just find a wall somewhere. There's not many, but we have some wall space over there. We have the ledge over here. We have wall space over here. Feel free to use all of this. And then the bent over rows, there's weights over here. Feel free to grab 1 or 2 dumbbells, and then or just do no weight at all. That'd be fine as well. Okay, I'll number you off, and we'll split off into our stations, and then we'll do a 6-minute EMOM together. All right. All right. So 1, hold up your finger. 2,